Hi friends, I just pushed a big and exciting update to the Reapertips theme, and as a reminder, I made a theme for Reaper. It's called the Reapertips theme, and it's the one I've been using in a lot of my videos. It's totally free and you can get it in the description below. My goal with this theme was to enhance the default look of Reaper, make it more cohesive, responsive, and easy on the eyes. All of this while not making it look drastically different, so it still works and feels like Reaper. So in this video I'm gonna show you all of the cool new things and some tips to get the most out of this theme. Now let me tell you why I'm so excited about this update and all of the future updates for this theme, and it's because I finally found the missing piece in this journey. You see, I super love designing and coming up with all of these cool ideas for the theme, but I was constantly frustrated because I didn't know how to implement a lot of those. But it's all okay now because Fit the Cat joined forces with me. If you don't know Fit the Cat, he's the legend. He's the creator of a lot of the scripts I've shown in this channel before. Things like core bots, grid bots, Emmet's tuner, and many more scripts. He's a genius and a super kind and awesome person to work with. So yeah, I'm very excited about the future of this theme, and with this update you will get a taste of all the possibilities that we can do now. So now I'm gonna show you all of the changes in this 1.8 update to the Reapertips theme. Let's go. In the previous version of the theme, there was 2 theme versions per system, 4 themes in total. Now it's just one single theme file that will work perfectly in any system and any resolution. We put a lot of work into making it look as consistent as possible in all systems. You just need to make sure that you have the 2 fonts installed, then you just click and drag the theme into Reaper, and that's it. This is such a good news because it will be much easier on my end to do updates to the theme, but especially create more variations, which is one of my goals with this theme. For example, I'm planning to launch a light mode version of the theme, and this would have been a pain if there was 4 themes per version. Oh, and there were not compromises at all, and you'll see why in a minute. So in previous version, one of the versions of the theme had the right side effects list in the TCP, and the other one didn't. This was a pain because if you wanted to hide it, it will create this huge gap in the track, which forces you to pretty much always have it on, or change to the other theme to completely remove it. Now you should be able to just show it and hide it by right-clicking in an empty field of the TCP and enabling show effects inserts in the TCP. And while you're at it, you can also enable show sends in the TCP, in the case that you also want to see your sends in there. You're also going to be able to finally adjust the size and position of this, but I'll go over that in a minute. Something that bothered me so much about the default theme in Reaper, and I have talked about it a lot in the past, it's how rigid and modular all of the buttons feel. When you adjust the width of a track, it easily starts to break, and a lot of the buttons keep jumping around. It was just very easy to make it look broken, and this is something I've been wanting to fix forever. And thanks to FTC, he managed to implement a very small responsive behavior inspired by how it used to be in Reaper 4. Now, when you adjust the width of a track, the long controls like the label, volume fader, and input bots will stretch out until certain points, making it very flexible and way less jumpy. It's also gonna try to make the pan and route button stay in the first row as much as possible. The goal is that it will try to look as compact as possible without looking broken and have a more predictable and consistent layout all around. This is one of my favorite additions and I'm so happy we managed to get it. We added a super nice narrow layout for the mixer, and if you usually work with big sessions, this thing is a lifesaver. To get this layout, just right click in any of the track in your mixer and select Track Layout, Mixer, A strip. And this track is fully customizable via the theme adjuster too, and you can adjust either layout A, B, or C. Now, speaking of the theme adjuster, there's some goodness in here. So in case you didn't know, you can go to the Actions menu and search for Theme Adjuster and run Show Theme Adjuster. In here, you're able to easily customize the look of your theme. And I do have an extended video about this that you can find in the description below. But the important part in here is that I already pre-selected all of the options that I think make most sense for this theme. Now, let me show you one super cool thing that we managed to implement in here. Now, when you adjust the track indent level for either the TCP or the MCP, the indentation image will update automatically. Before this, it was a pain because I really like how the indentation points at the track below. So the only solution was to go into the theme files and swap the image. But FTC is a genius and he made it so every time you change the indent level, it's gonna use the appropriate image. So that is really awesome. Now for the really fun part. And I want to emphasize that this is only going to work if you use Reaper 7 or later versions. You can go to the Actions menu and type Theme Adjuster and open the 7.0 theme adjuster. Now when you go to the theme control page, you'll find a huge list of parameters. And I know this looks overwhelming, but don't worry, I will soon create a nice interface for this, but for now this works really well. So feel free to try them out, there's some really cool things in here, and you can always reset them to the default values by scrolling all of the way to the bottom and hitting the reset values button. Alright, let me show you some of my favorite things that you can do with this. So starting from the top, you can select to tint the track panel. If you disable this, it's gonna make it so the background of the track doesn't get color, so you only get the color right here on the left side. And you can also make it so when you select it, it will tint the body of the track. Some people really like that. The next option is really cool, the dim track panel option. If you have really bright colors like these, you can make it so the track panel gets dimmed. So the color will get a little darker each level there are. There are 5 levels in here. You can dim the background like that. And I really like that because the left remains untouched, so that's the brightest color of all. But you still get a little tint of the color right there. And it's just so nice, especially if you use bright colors like me. And I like to have this at around 2, and I think it looks so nice. Next we have the show effects list on the side, and if you disable this, you will get the effects list right where the default Reaper puts it, which is at the bottom of the track. So if you want to have it on the right side, yeah, just keep that on in there. But now the next options are mind-blowing, they're my favorite things. So remember when I showed you that you can also show the sands in the TCP by enabling this in here? And you will see that the sand will appear right below your effects. Now you can have a separate sand list if you enable this thing right here. So you have 2 columns, one for the effects and one for the sands. And you can even create your own sands in here by clicking and dragging into whatever track that you want and control it right from here. And what makes this much cooler is that you can move the effects and IO buttons to the side as well, so they will appear at the top of the column. So you'll have an effects column and an IO column, and they both have their own buttons, and it's just so beautiful, it's so clever. It's one of my favorite things that FTC came up with, and it's just so genius. And I mean, this looks so nice, and it's so useful because you can click in here to see the route, and you can disable all the effects in here. And of course, if you disable separate sand list, you can just have the effects button at the top of the effects list, which is really cool as well. And not only that, you can also show another column for the effects parameters. So maybe you want to control your re-EQ in here, the gain of the band too, and you can pretty much control everything from here. Full control of the plugins, the sands, and everything is nice and responsive. Things will stretch and always look okay at whatever size you put it. And the beauty of this is that it's very customizable with all these options in here. You can adjust the list row height so things will look taller, the width of the fat, the width of the sand, the width of the parameters. But yeah, these are just options. If you're not into that, just simply don't enable them. So let's get this back. Let's go to the next section. And there's an option to allow shrinking long controls. If you disable this, this goes back to the old behavior. So for example, if I make it this size, it just doesn't look great. But if you enable this, it's always gonna look compact and really nice. Controls are gonna stretch when possible, and it's just gonna try to look as best as possible at all sizes. We're also expanding the input field to the end of the row, so it always looks compact. But if you're not into that, you can disable that. We figure it would be really nice if it just stretches into the end of the row, because it's very helpful to see this at full size, because usually you have long names in here. It just looks nice and compact. We also added this option to show a folder label indicator. When you enable it, the folder tracks will have this folder icon right where the record button is. And if you press it, you will get the record action in there. Now the next thing is something that a lot of people requested, and it's avoiding flipping the mute and solo buttons. So you will have a lot of cases where maybe one track gets big like this and the other are small. The mute and solo buttons are gonna flip it for this, so it's not gonna make it look as consistent. You see the list is here and the list is here, and that's unavoidable. But if you check this, avoid flipping mute and solo, everything will look consistent. So if you're into that, you can enable that. The next section is some MCP stuff. You can adjust the height of the list, so you can make your plugins look as big as possible. Also, we added the ability to adjust the offset of the height of the mixer. So in the case that maybe you don't want to see so many inserts and you want more faders, you can use the slider right here, and the same thing for the master fader. Maybe I don't want so many inserts, and yeah, something like this will look better. So yeah, it's just a nice convenient way to just do it all at once. And there's some text options in here. You can increase the size of the track name, for example. So yeah, those are some of the things that you can do with the new theme adjuster that I'm so excited about. And if you have any ideas that we can add into this, let me know please, because it's just so fun adding things in here, and I cannot wait to make a nice interface for this so it doesn't look that overwhelming. So Reaper 7 introduced an amazing new feature called Fits Lanes, and I highly suggest looking into it as it can really upgrade your workflow. So I was thinking, to make lanes more accessible to work with, we added a convenient little button in the bottom right of the track to quickly toggle on and off fits lanes in any track. And I also redesigned all of the lane buttons so it's far more compact and cleaner than before. And I also polished a bunch of small things and small details. There was a lot of polishing into this theme, so here's some of them. I changed the color of the effects states. Effects offline is now dead gray instead of red. Effects bypass is now a little more dead yellow instead of a bright yellow. I polished a lot of the buttons all around to make them pop out a bit more, especially the pan button was feeling very dark. The theme should now feel a little bit more alive and easier on the eyes. I recolored all of the envelope lanes. I think some of them were lacking a lot of contrast. I added new images for the new feature of ranking items up and down. I think the stars are so cute. The background for icons in the mixer was too bright and it was difficult to see the track icon. This new background improves visibility by a lot. I love when item peaks go white when selected, and it's how I use it in all my videos. In the previous version, I had it so it's more like the default where the peaks are dark and the background gets brighter. I feel it makes sense for me to change it to how I actually use it, but there's instructions in the PDF in case you want to revert this. When you select a track, it will show a white line across the left side, and I think that helps a lot. I retouched the track fader. I made it a little less fat and more centered and a little brighter. I fixed a small issue where if you press record and the monitor icon will show up, it will make the track label larger and push buttons around. Now when you press it, it won't expand and things don't get moved. And I don't know how I missed this before, but I had forgot to design the buttons you find in the same windows, so I made those. And just like those, there's a bunch of more minor stuff that I polished about this theme, but the important thing that it's out and you can use it, you can try it out, you can give me your opinion, you can give me your ideas. Now that I have an awesome person on my team, we can make anything possible. So yeah, the light mode version is coming up, and let me know what you think. I hope you like this, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!